The Amulet series ended on February 6, 2024, and with it came the end to my childhood nostalgia. It's over. So today we're gonna read the last 2 books. Are they bad? Did they completely ruin the entire series like some people say? Well, I guess you're just gonna have to find out. I'll give my thoughts on everything at the end of the video. Alrighty then. As always, rewatch the last 4 videos and enjoy the video. Let's read. We start off with Trellis walking through a snowstorm where he meets an old woman. They start walking together until they come across a small house that Trellis recognizes. Inside is an elf lady who looks like she's been on that mewing grind set, if you know what I mean, and her son. Also, they're both freezing to death, and turns out the elf boy is actually Trellis from the past, and the woman is his mother. But Trellis can't remember his mother, so he's sad. Then they leave and Trellis fades into pixie dust and wakes up in his bed. Turns out he was in the memory box thingy that Gablin gave him in the last book. But Trellis suspects that the old woman he met inside of the Tesseract Cube thingy was not from the memory, but instead a traveler like him. Then we cut to the city of Ippo, where the Resistance and the citizens of Lucian have taken refuge, since Lucian was taken over by the Shadows. The Elf King's troops are making their way to the city as the people panic and try to evacuate. The city council has ordered that all the children be put into the house mecha to be evacuated. Oh yeah, the robot guys and the house mech are back in the story now, I guess. Yeah, they kind of just showed back up for no reason. But Riva knows it's safer to remain in the city, so she has some kid named Patrick go and stop them before they leave. Afterward, Vigo talks to Riva about how when this war is over, the elf army will need leadership, and Riva should consider helping. Meanwhile, in the forest, the elf army is making their way to the city by foot, while also being tailed by Trellis and some of the resistance. Logi, who is leading the soldiers, calls out to Trellis and surrenders to him on order of the Elf King. The elven soldiers are kind of confused on why they're just giving up, but you know, they don't get paid to ask questions. So Trellis returns to the city with the captured army, where Vigo suspects something dubious is afoot. Later that night, the city people throw a celebration for their victory over the elf army, where Trellis gets bombarded by fans. Riva is also there, and she's dressed all fancy-like. They both end up talking about the coming invasion of the Shadows, while Vigo goes to confront Logi in the city jail. While they talk, Logi pulls out some kind of void portal gem thing that he uses to kamikaze himself and blow up the building, and also releasing Emily into the city. Yeah, don't forget that Emily got turned into a giant fire chicken in the last book. Yeah. Trellis races to help Vigo, and they both work together to hold back Emily's attacks. Then she drop-kicks both of them into separate buildings. Emily follows Vigo into a house, where she sees a dad and his kid. Emily attacks them and causes the building to collapse on the hamster guy. But the hamster kid tries to save his dad, which reminds Emily of herself, so she rescues them and then flies off. Then we cut to outer space, where Naven, Allie, Misket, Leon, and Naven's mom are. Their ship docks in a giant space station where they meet 2 alien dudes who explain that their objective is to pilot a big Gundam to some planet called Typhon, which apparently is going through a tough time with the invasion of the Shadows. Also, why does this one alien just look like a freaking, like, flan? Like, huh? You see what I'm talking about? You feel me? You feel? Anyway, they meet some lady named Jado, who's the leader of this whole operation. So they all fly down to the new planet in their robo-suit. When they get there, the sky is filled with shadow blobs, and they start helping some sick frog creature. But then Allie and Naven are put on some side quest to retrieve Gadobi tree saplings from some of the natives. So they get on some tricked out bikes and zoom off. Back on Earth, we see Fire Chicken Emily, but we zoom in and transition into what she's seeing. She wakes up, and once again, we're in the void, but it looks different, almost like it's a cave. There, she meets a little blob gremlin guy that tells her to follow him to meet the master. As they walk through the cave, she sees other Stonekeepers that are all from different worlds and planets. One of the Stonekeepers is the old lady from Trellis's memory, but Emily gets rushed along by the walking amoeba before she can talk to her. They start walking up a staircase where Emily meets some kid named Mose. What a stupid name. He offers to take Emily to a tree island that's in the void, that he says is his favorite place. So they go there, and Emily and Mose get to talking about how they're both from different worlds far apart in the galaxy. Mose's parents are both Stonekeepers, and he comes from a place where they were prepared to become Stonekeepers. And blah, 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 blah. Something about dads and family, and I don't know, freaking important character development probably. And oh, look, there's a strong breeze coming in, which apparently will help Emily travel. travel through the void. Time's up, time to go, says the little gremlin guy. So Emily says bye to Mose, and she instant transmissions into Stardust. She reappears in some mountain range, where she follows the blob to meet with the voice. They're in a memory now, and are watching the city of Cialis get destroyed by the out-of-control Stonekeepers that transformed into giant Titan monsters. Emily and the voice start talking about how Silas was one of the Stonekeepers that fought off the out-of-control Titans. Emily says that Silas was fearful, and that is the reason why he hid away the stone for so many years, and created robots to protect his family. She says she will have to be stronger than Silas in order to navigate the difficult paths ahead. Then out of nowhere, she just decides to work with the voice for some reason, since apparently they both have bigger problems to deal with than one another. Which makes absolutely no sense. Isn't the voice like the big mega villain of this story that's in league with the evil shadow aliens? What other problems do you have to deal with? He is literally your main problem. Anyway, Emily says that she will regain her power without the voice's help, and the voice continues to try and convince her to stay and join it. So instead, she just logs off the server and rejoins back in the cave area, where the old lady and Mose are waiting for her. They're there to help her get back to Alledia through some portal thingy, so they start running to it while being chased by the shadows. Wait, what? I thought that they were in the void, so how are the shadow guys here? I thought only Stonekeepers could enter the void, and now they're flying? When could they do that? What is happening? They make their way to the portal as the old lady fights off the shadows. Then it's revealed that the old lady is actually Emily somehow. And our Emily goes through the portal after saying goodbye to Mose. Then the voice shows up and is all like, what the freak, old Emily? Why'd you let her go? What the So he combos her into a wall where Mose runs up to her side. And we get this interesting tidbit of information. I love you, Mose. I love you too, Mom. What? Emily has a mixed race kid? I actually have no idea what's going on anymore. Back in Alledia, Emily transforms back to normal and crashes into the ground. She starts talking to the voice through her amulet, and we learn that the voice's real name is actually IKOL. Okay then, cool, I guess. Then she flies off like a Dragon Ball character as IKOL is like, where we going, fam? But back to Nathan and Allie. They've made their way to the tree farm mountain place to pick up the saplings. They are greeted by a family of green hair and big-nosed alien people, I guess? Yes. These are definitely aliens. Then they talk to the tree guys about hippy-dippy peace stuff when they get a call from Jado, who tells them to spend the night at the farm since it's getting dark. They eat dinner with the troll people and go to bed. But they're woken up early in the morning by Jado yelling at them to make their way back immediately because of some kind of emergency. The weather's a bit windy and there's a giant cyclone of shadows in the sky. So they pack up their sapling and start riding their bikes down a precarious wooden trail. As they pedal down the mountain, they are being chased by the shadow aliens, as well as a giant amulet stone monster thingy. Luckily, the team swoops in with the Gundam and yoinks Snaven and Allie to safety. Then they fly off back into space. Or do they? Back to Emily. She's making her way to Valcor, where she confronts the king and reveals to all the elves that he is nothing more than a scarecrow being controlled by IKOL. Now the elves side with Emily. Cool. Also, is it just me, or did this scene feel a lot like Gandalf exorcising Saruman out of Theoden from Lord of the Rings? Anyway, back to Trellis, Riva, and Vigo. They're all back in the city of Cialis, since they agreed prior to Emily transforming into a phoenix to all meet here if anything went wrong. When they get there, they find Emily is already there. Yippee! They're all happy to see she's okay, and back to normal. After that happy reunion, she shows them the Elf King's mask, and reveals that the king was completely under the control of IKOL. So now Trellis could go back to Valcor and claim his rightful place as the king. But now Emily has other stuff to do, like finding Naven and her mom. So she walks out of the building and into the forest, where she is given her staff by a mysterious old woman, which is so obviously her older self from the void, but whatever. Then she blasts off into outer space, flying like Superman. Yeah. This is such bullshit! Next book, Emily flies to the Resistance space station to find that it has been taken over by the shadows. So she frees a guy from the shadows' control, but then he alerts the other shadows for some reason. So she blasts them all away with her magic. Then she teams up with some rat-looking guy with a beautiful mustache to fly a ship down to the planet and find Naven and her mom. Because for some reason, they're still on the planet, where we saw them literally fly away. But the ship is out of fuel, so Emily powers it up with her stone as the mustache cat drives. arrives. But Emily begins to pass out, and we cut back to Trellis, Riva, and Vigo. They're sneaking into the elf city to stop some new false king that took over after the real king was unmasked by Emily. When they get to the throne room, we see that the false king is Gablin! You gotta be kidding me! What the? He survived the underwater explosion in the 7th book, and he was elected by the elves in their time of need. But instead of Trellis taking back the throne, he's like, nah, I didn't really want to be king anyway, and pledges his allegiance to Gablin. Now they're all buddy-buddy, and begin helping the elves rebuild the fallen kingdom, as well as Alledia as a whole, starting with the city of Cialis. Cut back to Emily, and she's waking up in a bed for some reason in the city of Cialis. She is then taken to see her grandfather Silas by one of the robots, Theodore. On their way, they pass by a young Vigo. When they get to Silas's office, Emily realizes that this is really sus and destroys the entire room, revealing that they are in the void once again. And this was all just an elaborate scheme by IKOL to control Emily once more and make her hate her family. Then she wakes back up in the spaceship with the mustache cat and immediately gives power back to the ship so they don't crash. In front of them is one of the Resistance Gundams, and a big Stonekeeper monster that shoots down the Gundam. Emily lands the ship quickly so that they can rescue the kids inside the mech thing, and so she can beat up the out-of-control Stonekeeper. Emily starts smack-talking the mountain giant, and then blasts it in the face with her magic, snapping it out of its monster form, and back to being a regular monster, I guess. Then she does the same thing to the sibling mountain giant, and now they're both back to normal. And they have amulets in their forehead for some reason. Like, I get that they're Stonekeepers like Emily, but you don't see Emily looking like Vision from Marvel. Anyway, so apparently our new mountain giant friends crashed out just like Emily in the 7th book, and also became monsters because of losing their way or something. So I guess this means if you're a Stonekeeper, you're not allowed to have a midlife crisis because you will turn into a freaky deaky monster. So now Emily teams up with the mountain giants and flies off to find Naven and her mom. Back to Trellis, Riva, and Vigo, they're all traveling to some rock quarry to meet with a long-lost Stonekeeper friend that Vigo knew back in the day at the, Academy. They meet her, and she's wearing some goofy-looking furry mask, and then starts yapping at Vigo about how she was banished from the Academy. But she gets over it real quick so that they can team up and help them rebuild the city of Cialis. Because for some reason, she's like really good at creative mode Minecraft. She's also going to be the new leader of the Guardian Council. And somehow she already has a bunch of Stonekeeper Padawans that she's been training in her builder ways. So like, where were these guys when we needed them? Like, it would have been really helpful if they were around when Max was breaking stuff early on in the story. Anywho, it turns out these Stonekeeper kids are enlightened or something, and have all learned how to control their monster form that they turn into when they lose control. And for some reason, all of their monster forms are animals like Emily's. I thought Stonekeepers were supposed to turn into titans like Lugger when they lost control, but I guess now they turn into weird-looking Zuzu pets. Whatever, but I guess we got 4 new Stonekeeper kids in the squad now. We got Do-Rag Girl, Ponytail Girl, Fallon from Dungeon Meshi, and that guy. They all start laying down some words of wisdom on Trellis about how to make better choices and stuff. And like, who are you, bro? You're like 10 years old. Shut your mouth! Then they all go game mode 1 and start building stuff with blocks. Back to Emily. She and the mountain giants stop to take a little nap, since it's sleepy time, I guess. But once again, she wakes up in the void with IKOL, and we get some crazy new lore dropped on us. Kala? Korra? Your friends cannot hear you. IKOL. It is time for you to choose a path. You speak as if you're in control. You have no power over me, IKOL. You're right, but we are both servants of my masters. Who are these masters you keep talking about? They exist around us, but are not seen. Your kind are not ready to know them. My kind? You mean humans? Among others. What about me? Am I ready to know who they are? I can show you how to contact them. Yes, show me. My masters do not communicate with just anyone. They are selective, and they have taken an interest in you. They know who I am? They've been watching your journey closely. What do they want? They need your help. Their home planet is located in a nearby galaxy, and it is dying. They're here to see if other life forms can succeed where they have failed. What happened there? Their habitat is compromised, and they want to reverse course. They're hoping someone here can help them find a solution. Where are they now? They're right here in this room. They exist on a parallel timeline that can be accessed by the power of the stone. Your powers can generate waves of energy that you may use to shine a light on this hidden world. It will simply require finding the right wavelength and infusing it with energy.
How can I believe anything you say?
What do I have to gain if what I say isn't true? Use the light from your stone and staff and see it for yourself. Use your power to light your path.
These shadows, are your masters standing in front of me? Are they machines?
Yes.
IKOL, are you a program?
That's correct. I have taken my name from the place I was born, the Intelligent Kinematic Operations Laboratory, also known as IKOL.
You and the masters are not from Typhon, are you?
No, we're not. We are like you. We are from Earth.
Were you created by Silas Charnan?
Yes. You have told me repeatedly to find my family, but the closest thing I have to family is you.
The planet they need help with. It's Earth, isn't it?
Yes. You have been on a long journey to understanding your power. It is now time for you to go home.
We have to leave these planets in better shape than we found them. We don't leave until we do that.
Time is of the essence, Emily.
I know, but if we don't stop the conflict here, it will find its way back to Earth. I'm gonna need your master's help. I don't know how many of you are out there, but I need you to go and find my family and let them know where I am. Bring us back together and take us to the shadows.
So is Silas just the bad guy now? I mean, he made the big, bad, swirly-faced man, which still makes no sense to me. Anyway, then Emily wakes up and starts following a butterfly for some reason. The bug leads her to old Emily, where they talk about how the future is going to be different. Then Grandma Emily tells OG Emily that the butterfly she followed is actually a little robot that Silas made, and that will lead her to Naven. The Mima Emily disappears, and regular Emily flies off with the mountain giants once again to find Naven. Back to Trellis and the gang. They're flying in the lunar moth to the city of Cialis with the new Stonekeeper kits, so that they can help rebuild the city and put it back on the ground where it was originally. Oh yeah, Enzo and Rico are here now too. When they get to the city, they see some guy who's been taken over by a shadow alien. So Mr. Yellow Amulet here and Fallon get rid of it. Then they go underground to the city's engine room, where they use their stones to power the engine so they can bring the city back to the ground. As the city begins to sink, all the shadow aliens that were there start flying away and leaving. Back to Naven, he and Allie are finishing their mission and replanting the sapling in some snow biome. So the sapling grows legs and replants itself in a new location. Then they leave. They get back to the Gundam and are ready to go back home when all of a sudden they get attacked by the other Resistance Gundams. The shadows have overtaken them and are controlling them, so they duke it out, and in the end, they all get overcome by the shadows. Wah, wah. Then Emily shows up and gets help from the alternate dimension robot guys to get inside the Gundam, where she faces the shadows and frees everyone from their control. Then all the shadows come together to form IKOL, so Emily jumps into him. What? Somehow, she's underwater now with skulls, so she swims out, and when she resurfaces, she's in the void again. Huh? Then she sees her dad, who transforms into IKOL. What? Emily starts bullying IKOL, while also self-reflecting, which makes IKOL shrink for some reason, like it's It Chapter 2 or something. Then Emily just blows him away. When she wakes up, she's greeted to her family, and a human Leon? Somehow, whatever she did broke the furry curse from the beginning of the story that everyone was under. I have literally no idea what is happening right now, and I think the plot just killed itself. Don't worry. It gets worse. Back at Cialis, the new Guardian Council is getting ready to rebuild the city and place it back down on the ground. But before they do, they have to do some kind of meditation thing where they transform into their monster forms. But guess what? IKOL is still alive somehow and starts messing with the do-rag girl, which makes her crash out. But Vigo steps up and is like, "Take me instead." So IKOL pops out of the girl and straight up self-implodes on Vigo. So yeah, he's dead now. What the? Then the Amulet Kid gang decides it's a good time to elect Trellis to be the new Elder Stonekeeper of the Guardian Council, aka the King of Cialis. Like, someone just died. I think he can wait a little bit to become king. Then Enzo and Rico transform into their human selves since the curse was broken, which I feel like should have happened earlier. Afterward, the Stone Gang starts doing their thing they came here to do and rebuilds the city. And now we get a long outro that I'ma just read out to you guys. Every action creates a ripple in time and space. Each ripple has the potential to become a giant wave when amplified out across the universe. What we do here resonates far beyond our reach and vision. IKOL was a master of lies, but every now and then he observed the truth. He used these truths to make me believe he and I were alone, that the fate of the universe rested upon our shoulders. But this was never true. We are all a part of a much bigger picture. A picture that paints itself. No one person or creature or thing is responsible for the fate of all others. The bigger picture remains out of our control. Every one of us has a part to play, even when we are worlds apart, or separated by time and knowledge. We are all a part of the picture. My friends on Alledia began the long journey of bringing their world back together. Trellis developed into the leader he was destined to be. With Ronan's discipline from the quarry by his side, Trellis would rule over many years of peace in Alledia. Trellis would ask me to join them. As much as I wanted to continue my journey with the Stonekeepers, I felt that I could not accept. It was a gut feeling. I knew my work would continue, but not here on Alledia. I knew this would mark the end of my first off-world adventure. After spending far too many years hidden in the clouds, the city of Cialis had finally returned to its original location. The city in the sky had returned home. I could sense that it was time for my family to do the same. Trellis and the Guardian Council would have plenty of help, with allies like King Gablin and Mayor Riva Ash by their side. The return of Cialis served as a beacon of hope, a sign that true leaders had returned to Alledia. I introduced the Guardian Council to Kala and Cora, who were quickly embraced as new members of the group. Their contributions would become the subject of countless legends and tall tales. The Resistance formed an alliance with the Guardian Council. They would no longer need to operate in secret. It was wonderful to see their real faces for the first time. Leon, Trellis, and the others asked again for us to stay in Alledia. Saying yes would have been easy. After all, they were family to us now. But life has a way of sending you on unexpected adventures. Sometimes all it requires is finding the right book. In Silas Charnan's library, I noticed one that called out to me. It featured the symbol on my stone, the Book of Light. Its author was Vigo Light. Did Vigo write a book? Strangely, the book was written 300 years ago, so I imagined it was a different Vigo Light until it became clear that this book was written for me. In the stories you'll hear across Alledia, prominent stonekeepers like Trellis and I get credit for ending the conflict. But if not for Vigo Light, the war would still be unfolding. In his book, Vigo described what happened after he entered the void with IKOL. He found himself back home, or at least what looked like his home. He knew this was only an illusion. Vigo's enclave is where he always intended to spend the rest of his days, and now he would do just that in an unexpected way. IKOL was waiting for him. Vigo and IKOL began to play a game of chess that would never end. Over the next several years, Vigo studied IKOL. What he learned, he detailed in his book. Vigo was joined by his wife, Miriam, and his son, Daniel. He wondered for a moment if he was in the afterlife. He knew it was all an illusion, but he accepted it as his reality. He did not want to be anywhere else. While Vigo studied IKOL, so did IKOL study him. He discovered that IKOL was from Earth, and he pondered the reason why anyone would create something so destructive. IKOL told Vigo that it was human nature to create things like him. It was IKOL's belief that his destructive nature made him more human. Many years passed, or so it seemed. Vigo decided it was time to return. Much older now, Vigo ventured out of his enclave. He left the beautiful illusion behind. As much as Vigo wanted to stay in this dream, he knew he needed to speak to us about what he'd learned. He had grown much older, and time was slipping away. When Vigo returned from the void, Alledia seemed different. He soon realized that he had traveled 300 years into the past. He could feel his life nearing its end. He had to try to communicate with us in some way. Vigo managed to find a small place to stay in Lucian, and then he began to write. He spent his last days writing the Book of Light, and as the book came to its conclusion, so did Vigo's life. Years later, his book found its way to Silas Charnan's library. When I reached the end of the book, it concluded with a sentence I knew to be true. It said, "Maintaining the peace will require returning to where the conflict began." The feel in my gut was strong. I knew what we had to do, and I didn't want to do it. We had to return to Earth. I explained to Trellis why we needed to go back to Earth.
He agreed that my return was necessary in the ongoing fight against the shadows. I will miss my friends so much. We said our goodbyes in a casual way, as though we were only parting for a short time, but we knew it wasn't true. I will never forget them. We journeyed back into the caverns, inside Demon's Head Mountain, back to the beginning. Places that had once seemed dangerous and alien to us now felt familiar. It was all so beautiful and serene. We could walk through any strange new land without fear in our hearts. In place of fear, we felt a love for life and its many adventures. When we began our journey, I felt as if our lives were spinning out of control. What I learned over the years is that life is always ebbing and flowing, from good days to bad ones. While we can't control life itself, we can do our best to manage how we react to what it presents to us over time. By staying calm, we can make the right choices to move our lives forward and to ride the waves that surround us. Even in the most trying times, you can find light in the darkness. We all have within us a compass, a guiding light. If we follow it, we can make our way home, but it requires a willingness to listen. Choices in life are like doorways that can lead to light and dark places. While the path is ever-changing, our compass can guide us. What I learned most of all through the years is that I must choose to act proactively and not wait too long to follow my compass. Every decision has a ripple effect. Make a good decision, and good things happen in ways we cannot fully comprehend. Can't say I expected that to work. Can you start the car with your powers? I'd rather not do that, Mom. Let's just walk to town instead. I don't know why I suggested it in that moment, but the decision to walk would prove to be consequential. I remember so many details from that moment in time. I was carrying words of wisdom passed down to me by teachers on Alledia. The words would help guide me on my home world. I started to worry about being back on Earth. After all, IKOL was created here, born from the chaos of technology mixing with our tendency to complicate things. I must remember to walk carefully and follow my compass. Many others were watching us now, both friends and foes, on Earth and in faraway galaxies. One adventure was coming to a close, and a new one was about to begin. I had no idea what we would find once we returned to the city, but for a brief moment during our walk, I remember the air was filled with jokes, laughter, stories, and reflections on life. I felt like I was a kid again, like we were just a normal family. I will hold on to this memory. I'm probably going to need it.
And that's it. And I'll be real with you guys. I have no idea what just happened. I started to realize back in book 6 that Kazu Kibuishi was making up this story as he went along. At least it feels like that. I mean, the void made absolutely no sense and kind of became whatever it had to for the plot. Everything about the amulet's power and the void were explained so horribly, and it seemed like in the final book, the new characters just showed up out of nowhere. Like, you're telling me we had 4 Stonekeeper kids this whole time, and they're only getting introduced to us now? I feel like they could have helped the main crew on multiple occasions. And backtracking to the 6th book, it felt like Max died for absolutely no reason. Like, wasn't he the most overpowered character for a while, and he just crumbles into Sans Undertale? Also, wasn't everything originally way more fantasy-based and medieval? And now we're in space with aliens? The first 3 books will always have a special place in my heart, since they were what originally inspired me to get into comics in the first place, and even make my own. But after those 3, it feels like the plot is missing, and the ending was rushed. But pushing all that aside, this series is a fantastical work of fiction that so many kids cherish and use to help foster creativity. The beautiful world and mood surrounding the bustling cities and the dark forests made me feel something truly amazing as a kid, and for that, I have to thank you, Mr. Kibuishi. Thank you for inspiring me to use the power of art and comics to make my stories come to life just like yours. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!